What's happening, everybody? Welcome into another edition of the Mac and Reed Show right here on Second City Gridiron. Follow at Second City Gridiron for all your Bears news in the offseason. Subscribe to the YouTube channel if you don't already. Of course, the audio-only versions on Spotify, iTunes. Help us get those numbers up. Like, subscribe, tell a friend or two. And, of course, look up the great articles that our cohorts are writing, Jacob and Lester and company, at WC Gridiron on social media. Windy City Gridiron online. I'm Evan Mack, as always, at The Real Evan Mack on social media, joined by my co-host. He was the first in line at IKEA for that 20-inch glizzy they came out with. Guilty pleasure is the music of Somber. And go to his Twitter for his thoughts on Chappelle Roan's breasts. At Ross Reed, if you want to check it out there. And it's Ross Reed, folks. What's happening, buddy?
It is. Is it Chappelle? Is it Chapel? I don't know.
I think I wrote it as Chappelle, so I had to read. So I had to read it as Chappelle. It's Chapel Roan, I think.
It is. It is. I am still.
She sucks. I don't know. She seems pretty like aggressive to all the like journalists on the red carpet, and I don't know.
I don't know. I have marked myself safe again from not knowing any Chapel Roan's music, or I tried to mark myself safe from her breasts on Sunday too, but I failed on that one as there they were just staring at me on TV. So good for her,
Thumbs down, he said.
Yeah.
All natural, baby. Swing low, sweet chariot, in the words of Creed Bratton. Yeah, I don't know what her deal is. You're the president of the Pink Pony Fan Club. Anyways, Pink Pony Club Fan Club. There it is. Well, we got a lot to get to. It is it's like one of our first shows of the fair off season. Viso Joe, welcome. And remember, you can always chime in on the comment section if you're watching live on YouTube. Welcome to all the viewers watching live. But yeah, we've got a lot to get to as we discuss the Bears. Off-season moves has already begun, at least in the front office and coaching as far as that's concerned. We'll talk about the Super Bowl very shortly after that and some other NFL news. Of course, a little Grammys 2026 recap after talking about Chapel Roan and company. It was fun. I cooked through it last night just on speed mode, zipping through the majority of that. And Trevor Noah, and what else? The Bulls making moves. I got Rose behind me. I got the Bulls stuff on. We're going to talk about that, Ross, and if we're trending in the right direction. Surprises along the way, of course. But to begin. On the Bears note, not much to get to is, we're well ahead of the free agency periods and cutting and signing and et cetera, the guys who will be on the field next year, although there's some uncertainty that we'll talk about in a moment regarding that. But it's worth mentioning that, Ian Cunningham's name had been floated for a while there as far as a GM candidate, and the Falcons tapped him this offseason to head it up. And it looks like, Matt Ryan with close ties to the Falcons franchise is also going to be, I believe, the president. Is that right, Ross?
He's the president of the team.
Operations.
Yes.
Yeah. And then,
which of course affects draft compensation for the Bears.
Yeah. There you go. And then Declan Doyle departing, which is good for him. Of course, we root for Declan Doyle, who's still very young at 29. He's the new offensive coordinator. He gets to be coaching Lamar Jackson over in Baltimore. So how about that? It's like I said, it's a lot of these assistants, and there's still time too. We're thinking about the future of the positional coaches and coordinators, but this is why they take the initial job, and that's a huge jump for Declan Doyle. If you get that opportunity with a year of coaching. And turning around an offense like he did with the help of Ben Johnson, of course, but you're, getting a lot of credit for Caleb Williams' development and the rest of this Bears offense. Kudos to him. And the same with Ian Cunningham, who is very instrumental along with Ryan Poles for getting this roster to where it's at. So I don't know if you had any gut reactions right away. I think you wish them well.
I did. And, this is the byproduct of when you've got a good football team and when you're a playoff team and you've got guys on the Bears and some of the young guys have developed, all of a sudden, you start calling, Ian Cunningham. I think it's awesome for him. He's a Georgia native. We talk about the connections that Ryan Poles has back to the Boston College days. That's where Matt Ryan went to school at. So you can connect the dots and know that Ryan Poles put in a good word for Ian Cunningham to get this job. And I think that's just doing his friend a solid. And I hope he crushes it there. He's in a difficult position because Atlanta Doesn't have a first round pick this year. Remember, they traded last year so they can move up to get James Pierce, the pass rusher. They don't really have a quarterback right now. Michael Penix is still out with another knee injury. They're probably gonna have to release Kirk Cousins, so they're gonna have to get creative what they're gonna do there. But overall, the roster is still pretty solid. They got some young guys on defense. They still have Drake London. They still have Bijan Robinson, right? They still have whatever they're gonna do with Cal Pitts. So regardless, it's just cool to see Ian Cunningham finally get that shot. He's been interviewing for a few years now, and I know in theory he doesn't have final say on that roster, but this is Matt Ryan's first time he's ever working in this capacity and running a team. So I can promise you he's going to be leaning on Ian Cunningham a lot early and often, especially in this process right now. We're talking about coming off of East-West, Shrine games, coming off of Senior Bowls, and then going into the Combine after the Super Bowl, and then putting draft boards together. Matt Ryan doesn't have any clue how to do that, and that's where Ian Cunningham's going to do a lot of heavy lifting early on. And then for Declan Doyle, this guy feels like he's a head coach in the waiting within the next 2 years or so, and
Right.
for him to go from working with Sean Payton to now he worked with Ben Johnson this year and Caleb Williams and Cole Kmet, talked about this week how instrumental Declan was towards the Bears doing their fine tuning at halftime and making their adjustments, especially on offense, and the offense coming out a lot better in the second half. You can see why a team like Baltimore would be impressed with him, and he gets to go work with Lamar Jackson, who's one of the top 10 quarterbacks in the league right now when he's healthy. And so for Declan, if he wants to keep moving up in this league, and he can get Lamar Jackson over the hump and even get like a playoff win or two underneath his belt, then every team that wants a new offensive bright mind as for their head coach is going to come calling in a year or two. So credit to both of them. Kudos to both of them. Best of luck. And from a Bear standpoint, nothing changes. Like you still have the infrastructure, which is Ryan Poles and Ben Johnson. I think Ben Johnson being most important here. And now all of a sudden, guys see what happens, especially with Declan Doyle, and they're like, I got to go work with that guy. Let me put in a year. Let me put in 2 years with Ben Johnson. Let me, help him be his researcher, be his apprentice, do a lot of the dirty work, because I can get this hot OC job. I can get this hot head coaching gig down the line. So a name right now that's really hot is Connor Singer. He's he's the passing game coordinator, for the Arizona Cardinals. Before that, assistant quarterback coach for them. He spent some time in college as quarterbacks coach for a couple schools in Wisconsin. But you can see a theme here. He's young. He's like super young. And I think that's what Ben Johnson wants right now. He wants guys that are young, that are going to grind it out and spend a lot of time in the office and do a lot of the dirty work. And those guys know, if I do it now in the early 30s, boom, my NFL coaching career takes off. And that's what you want. You got the head guy there in Ben Johnson. It's always going to be his offense. But let these guys learn at the feet of the masters, so to speak, knowing that their careers can take off doing so.
Yeah, it was such a home run and such a thrill to see that this coaching staff was night and day different, versus Eberflus versus Ben Johnson in this last year. And now, of course, you're hoping that the Bears can retain Dennis Allen, who I think, given a pass rusher, obviously the takeaways leading the league was turning heads and great and sending some Pro Bowlers down, which we'll talk about how awful the Pro Bowl is shortly. But again, like you talked about, just being really young across the coaching staff, the guys like, JT Barrett and Antoine Randall, guys love him. And in addition to the vets like, Richard Hightower, Dennis Allen, like I mentioned, but now, looking at, as you said, Russ, I echo that too, that it doesn't change, that the product on the field is going to continue to be very similar mindset under Ben Johnson. Now you're looking at when the dominoes start to fall in the next month and change. Will it be, goodbye to Tremaine Edmonds? Are you cutting him? DJ Moore? Can you get anything for DJ Moore for that matter? Are there going to be, what are the plans to shore up left tackle? A lot of speculation. A lot of Bears fans want, Trey Hendrickson on a $20 million tag for, or I should say salary, a year rental, if you will, with a pass rusher. Pay him that amount, give him the blank check, so to speak, whatever the market value is of Hendrickson. And then look to the draft. We've seen Ryan Poles cook before. in the past several drafts. So it's only a matter of time before those will be hitting. But we've had a lot of time to ruminate on that, Ross. I don't know if you have changed your tune. I think we talked about it at length the last show as far as Edmonds. It's a tough situation at linebacker with the production that Edmonds had, and you're looking at TJ Edwards missing perhaps the whole season with that awful injury. So you're starting at square one in the linebacking core. Not to mention Sewell, also had a terrible leg injury as well. So it's real rough there. And then, we've talked about the potential departures. Like, are you signing Kevin Byard to an extension? Is Jaquan Brisker going? Yeah, you've had a lot of time to think about it. Ross, anything changed in your eyes for the plan?
Yeah, I still am kind of where I'm at now, which is I think guys on the way out are Nashawn Wright, Jaquan Brisker, Tremaine Edmonds. I think those guys are on the way out. I think you look at Byard, I'm pretty sure he's going to stick around. You bring him back on a year or two contract. He's a stabilizing veteran on the back end. He had an amazing year, right? And he's a guy that Dennis Allen can really trust. And outside of that, they do need to get younger and more athletic on the football field. I think, letting go in Nashawn Wright, letting him cash in somewhere else, knowing that, this year was a fun year, but most likely it was a little bit of a fluke. You look at a guy like Brisker, they can replace that kind of productivity in the second round, the third round of the draft, and not have to pay a lot of money in an extension. So knowing that they need to get younger, more athletic, but they need to also go shopping for a potential impact pass rusher, you're going to have to make some difficult decisions. And I do think that for right now, that means saying goodbye to Tremaine Edmonds, letting Brisker walk, letting a guy like Nashawn Wright walk as well.
Yeah. And then offensively, like I alluded to, DJ Moore is just getting run out of town. I think fans are very much done with that, and the whole narrative of him quitting in certain plays during the season, and the salary that is carried with DJ Moore, and you're paving the way for Odunze and Luther Burden as your sort of new 1-2 punch at wide receiver. And then of course left tackle is a huge question when you saw Ozzie Trapillo go out with that huge injury in the playoffs, and that's brutal when you thought, boy, here's a guy that we to pull by Chris Collinsworth. Here's a guy that he was looking really promising, and really most, like 90% of the draft picks, if you will, were really having quality reps, in this team. So with left tackle, what would you like to do, Ross, if you were Poles right now? Are you looking at a rental out there somewhere? Or are you looking immediately in the draft?
I think so. I think you have to look at both options, right? Because you don't know what's going to happen with Ozzie. That's a pretty catastrophic injury for offensive linemen at his size. I think at best, he's probably losing or you're probably missing him for half the year next year. That's at best. I think you almost have to go into next season thinking you're not going to get much at all from him. So they're going to probably look for a stopgap veteran out there. I think the good thing is you still feel really good about yourself the 4 positions in, right, going forward. So if you kind of find a little bit of a Band-Aid for next year and you scheme against it, you're probably in a good spot. So they probably look for a veteran swing tackle out there. Maybe you can look at, now in the draft now, do you find a guy that can potentially also give you some burn there in the middle rounds, and then you just try and figure out for a year or so and hoping that Ozzie can get back on the football field and be healthy again. Because you're right, when he was out there, he did look like that was going to be your guy for the years going forward, and that's kind of the low light of the playoffs is you did lose such a talented potential guy that you have at left tackle. So it's going to be interesting. I don't think a guy like Braxton Jones will still come back or in the future or anything like that. I'm pretty sure he's gone. But, there's going to be some guys, there's going to be some veterans that always get released and are always going to be out there. They're going to be able to kind of fill those shoes. Again, having Tooney out there and having Delman and Jackson and Darnell Wright is very helpful because you don't need a blue chip left tackle when you're so solid on the offensive line as it is. And back to DJ Moore, it's like, I agree with you. The salary makes it the most difficult, in my opinion, is you can't pay his salary and you're probably heading into next season being the fourth option on the football field in terms of your receivers, right? Because you have Colson Loveland, who's now an emerging star. You still have Ndunze, who needs to pick up his slack for next year as well. And then, of course, Luther Burden out there, which makes DJ Moore probably your fourth best option. And at his age, at that salary, you have to see if somebody else is willing to take on that salary dump for you, and maybe you get back a fifth, fourth round pick, something like that, something conditional pick back, and just get rid of the salary off your books.
Well, to pave the way for someone, maybe you can strike gold again, lightning strike twice with a Luther Burden type player. Are you looking deep enough in the draft, around that, or even in the offseason? Because, the narrative, again, has changed with the Bears as far as players from other teams are going to want to go play with Caleb Williams and go to a contender now, which the Bears are. And you talked about that silver lining with the left tackle, which is, certainly important to protect Caleb's blind side, but 4 out of 5 linemen, you're good. You're looking at, all of those guys were worthy in my eyes of going to the Pro Bowl. Obviously, Tooney and Dahlman represented the Bears, and what was Tooney? I think what was it? Just like protector of the year. He was up for something like that, which was fun.
Yep.
But yeah, you're good as far as your left guard to right tackle, which is an excellent problem to have. So the offense doesn't concern me as much as all the work that needs to be done on that defense. It could look very different. Half that defense, departing, and then half obviously going to be trying to build off some of the success that Dennis Allen was able to get with the takeaways and late season. That's as good a game as I've seen them play against Matt Stafford and the Rams at home. So it's a long offseason, though. And of course, looming large over all of us is the old, is it going to be Gary, Indiana for the Bears, or will it be Arlington Heights? And Waddle and Sylvie, if you listen to local radio, are speculating, as early as this month or into March, we might hear some news on that. They're trying to move quicker. We talked about it briefly in the last show. It'd be a damn crime to move away from the lakefront, but all signs point to that. It just is a matter of financials at this point, because obviously the McCaskies are going to go down with the ship. They have no plans to sell this team. So it's funding and looking at everything. And Indiana has certainly made every push, but it seems like a big slap in the face to the Chicago fan base to say, hey, we're going to go 30 minutes south of here to Gary, Indiana.
It is, and this is when it kind of sucks being a fan a little bit, because then all of a sudden politics come into play, and then a lot of money and taxpayer money, and what's right, what's wrong, and things like that. And at the end of the day, the Bears have to make the best decision for their franchise in terms of, I get it, they want to own their own property, and they want to have the flexibility to host other events there. They want to not have their fans sit outside and 10-degree weather like I did for a Rams versus Bears playoff game. And there's Super Bowls, there's Final Fours, and there's other events and concerts and things like that. So for now, I'll be completely honest with you, over the last few years, from staying on the lakefront to Arlington Heights and now Indiana and this and that, I'm just like, I am a little sick of it. And I want them to make a decision and make a firm decision and go with it. And let's kind of put this past us. And I really want to focus on the product on the field right now, because I do think that this is taking away from exciting times as a Bears fan. Let's even say they hypothetically agree to a deal in Indiana, right? You're still years away from a stadium being built, and then money has to get moved around, and a governor has to sign off. And there's a lot that has to go into that. And it's like, you might not see a stadium open until like Caleb Williams is in year 8 or something like that into his career. It just takes a long time. So I think for now, the stadium stuff, I don't even want to see it. I'm almost like out of sight, out of mind right now. Like, put that over here. We got Caleb Williams and Luther Burden, and we got, I got Ben Johnson here. I want to enjoy the product that's on the field right now. And then when the stadium, actually gets past, to put it into football terms, when they get it into the red zone and they're ready to punch it in, then I'll start paying attention again. But I feel like they've been saying that they are the last few years. They haven't even gotten past the 50-yard line. So I'm just really sick of it at this point.
It's pretty exhausting, and I've, on ways to visit my parents up north, I'll pass that Arlington Heights plot every
Mhm.
time on the way there and on the way back, and it's like, that has been such an ordeal in itself, and now throwing Indiana into the mix, it's like, all right, well, however you figure it out, it needs to obviously make sense to the fan base financially and to, the city not having to, foot the bill for this monstrosity and this whole stadium and the like Wrigleyville aspect of it, where they want, a sports book and restaurants and shopping and whatever else they want. And
Mhm.
and Gary and Arlington Heights offer that. Obviously think that, you and I have gone on the record that City of Chicago offers that too, but it's a matter of politics at this point and money. Yeah, I'm with you though. Like I've we haven't seen an offense like this ever in our lifetimes with the Bears, where they just came out screaming with the Ben Johnson regime and Caleb Williams really having a great sophomore season, night and day difference. One of the best young quarterbacks out there. So
Mhm.
that's what it's focusing on. Looking at the Bears' top 20 plays of the season, and the Colston Loveland highlights and all the weapons, and anything short of the playoffs looks like, an abject failure. You're looking at next year trying to repeat this sort of success. So I'm sure Ben Johnson obviously feels that way. So does Caleb Williams, who, went to a Hawks game and a Bulls game, but then, was right back in the lab right after that, which is that mentality that these guys have. They're hungry for, what these players in the Seahawks and Patriots are preparing for in the Super Bowl right now.
That's right, and the fact that they all were so close, right? And they were
Yeah. So close.
a pass away from overtime to going to Seattle and being in the NFC Championship game. So, I do like what Ben Johnson said after the season, which is there's nothing for us to build on. We go back to zero. We go back to square one, and we got to build it back up again. And I like that because he says don't get comfortable with what happened this year and complacent and think that it's going to be handed to us again because we made the playoffs. We got to get back in there and we got to fight and we got to grind and we've got to have another tough training camp and be prepared again. And I like that too, because I think the players that he has going forward are going to have that same mentality too. And now, like you said earlier, veterans are going to want to sign up for that. And guys are going to say, listen, try to find a way to get me to Chicago because they're building something special over there. And I want to be a part of that. And I want to try and win a Super Bowl because, I mean, let's face it, no matter where the stadium is at, this is still a charter franchise. This is still a giant market. And if you win a Super Bowl in Chicago, you are a god for life as a player, as a head coach, as a quarterback, as the long snapper. It doesn't matter. I barely remember 1985, right? And we celebrate the 2006 team and Devin Hester and things like that. So imagine if they actually got over the hump and what would happen. And so, that would be humongous. And I think a lot of guys want to see that and they want that on their jacket going forward because you would just be a legend for the rest of your life.
It's monumental, of course, what the Cubs were able to achieve in 2016. But you know that this city is so hungry. We just marked 40 years since that Super Bowl win for the Bears in '85. That is just ad nauseum. They did a Super Bowl shuffle special. It feels like every year they're doing something on the '85 Bears in HBO or wherever, which is great. And that's the legend of it still grows. But man, it's about the present. And you're looking at these two teams who are not that far removed from their own Super Bowl runs as we switch focus to the Super Bowl with the Pats and the Seahawks. And by the way, the Pro Bowl is tonight if you want to tune into whatever that now is. And it's awful. Like, what is I don't know what happened to the Pro Bowl, how it got this soft. I mean, I get it that injuries are a concern and yada, yada, yada. But like, it was great to hear the remembrances of like Sean Merriman talking about like Adrian Peterson not letting up in the Pro Bowl and all these guys. And I remember just like even just the throwing contest, things like that just seemed in Peyton Manning holding court, by the pool. It
Yeah,
just had such a different vibe. And now it's flag football and
yeah.
just playing patty cake. It's just really ridiculous. And this game being on a Tuesday, this flag football game is just like a joke for what is America's biggest sport right now. I don't know how we got to here, Ross.
I don't either. I think they tried to corporatize it. They tried to heavily monetize it, and they took away of something that was really cool, which was it was very organic to just send the best players that aren't involved in the Super Bowl. And when I was a kid, the Pro Bowl was played after the Super Bowl, so it was like the end of the season. Then they changed it to before the Super Bowl then they changed it to like maybe 2 weeks before the Super Bowl. But regardless, the best part of the Pro Bowl was when it was in Hawaii, because it was far enough away where these players actually wanted to go to Hawaii for a week and bring their families and spend time with each other. And there was a lot of organic camaraderie that was there that has just been taken away and stripped down from them. And so I think that's the issue. In the NFL, they shot themselves in the foot with that. I think every single sport that has a quote unquote all-star game has done this. The NBA all-star game is in about a week or so after the Pro Bowl. That's a disaster too. And MLB baseball is, as the home run derby has just kind of been sanitized in the game itself and things like that. So I did used to enjoy the Pro Bowl when it was just a simple NFC versus AFC in that crappy stadium in Hawaii, and the players actually cared because they really valued the week and the time that they had with each other. And it was also a big recruiting session for a lot of guys in terms of free agency and things like that. And so they've taken it away. I think the NFL needs to take a strong look into what they have right now and potentially change it, break it down, whatever. There's other options out there. You can move it to Las Vegas, right, permanently, who has a cool city in the venue.
Ain't it? That's for sure.
It's not it. It's not it. I know football has been taken out of San Diego, but to me, San Diego is an option as well. It's like that Qualcomm Stadium is still there, I believe, and you've got SoFi. There's a lot of other places where you can shift this game to and go back to having it in an actual game again. And guys are smart enough to know where they're not going to, except for that one year where Sean Taylor almost killed the punter. But guys are smart enough to know not to just destroy each other and risk a major injury or something like that because it's the Pro Bowl.
Yeah, it's just shame on you, Roger Goodell. Just it's such a bad look for, again, this biggest sport in America when we talk about this game being on a Tuesday. Do you have a favorite all-star game in the major sports? I feel like the NHL all-star game is definitely
definitely their skills challenge is definitely the best one on them all, right?
Yeah, sure. I think obviously like the all-star weekend of the NBA, the dunk contest always gets a big lure, in the 3-point shooting contest, and then the rising stars is kind of fun with the freshmen, sophomores type of deal, and then it's just an alley-oop fest on Sunday for the games. But
right.
then, of course, the all-star game for baseball has got some fun twist to it. And then it used to have stakes as well.
Yes. Like baseball used to be like, somebody would get home field advantage in the World Series, depending on which league won. Baseball is still my favorite to me because I still think it's cool to see like Paul Screens go in the box and try and strike out, Shohei Ohtani, right? Or Ohtani is pitching versus, I don't know, throw a random hitter out there. And, you see them mic'd up and they're making these circus catches, and you start seeing like, I think baseball players, when you watch them on a day-to-day basis and you see the guys, you start to forget how athletic and how skilled they are. But then when you see the top echelon players and they're doing this on a big stage like that against each other, I think that gets really exciting. And I think the games are usually fairly close. This year was another close game too. Obviously you don't want to see like guys taking off in the 7th inning and flying out of town, but also I get that too. It's like they need a break from a sport that they play every single day. These guys haven't seen their families in 2 or 3 months. There's no perfect way to run any of these games. I think the NBA used to have the best one back when, I hate to do the old man get off my lawn thing, but it was like back when Jordan and Isaiah and Magic and even Kobe and Shaq and those guys actually gave a damn and cared about it. And they would actually play hard in an all-star game. And I think that's when it was at its most fun. Now, this LeBron era of ushering in, and guys don't want to partake in dunk contests and don't want to play defense and things like that. It is very watered down. It sucks.
I still remember that was like the last all-star game I cared about, when Kobe was still playing and he needed LeBron to like win the game. It was outstanding to see that type of tenacity. Now you don't see it. There's nobody's playing defense. It's just, again, just layups. It might as well be a layup drill.
Mhm.
On to the Super Bowl, Ross. And
Yes.
it is
Super Bowl. What is it? What's the letters for this one? I know it's Super Bowl
L
60.
LX.
LX.
Yes, sir. It was
I should know
LI.
that. I gotta,
LI.
I gotta, I gotta
Good
get my
girl.
Roman numeral
Girls are
games
tough.
down. We got an Odyssey movie this year. I gotta tighten up here on my
Brush up
Roman
on
and
Roman
Greek
numerals, man.
mythology.
There you go. So with the Seahawks and the Patriots, it's like I alluded to, where I feel like the majority of America is probably still sick of the Patriots, maybe a little bit of a majority going to the Seahawks at this point, but interesting narratives with, Mike Vrabel and Drake May doing their thing as far as having a phenomenal season and a phenomenal cap to the season and just winning with great defense. And Drake May, opposite, the same class as Caleb Williams,
Mhm.
um, certainly has a great storyline along there. And I think people are trying to poke holes in their journey to the AFC championship. And it's like you beat who's in front of you. You went into Denver and you won in a blizzard. That's still, an impressive enough win.
Mhm.
Obviously, the Bills get knocked off was huge and not having the Chiefs in the AFC, it is what it is. You still got to the Super Bowl now on the shoulders of Drake May and this great defense. And kudos to Mike Vrabel. And then on the other side, got another great young coach in Mike McDonald, who, has certainly revitalized this offense under Sam Darnold, I feel like, with him under center, and Jackson Smith and Jigba being one of the best receivers, if not the best receiver in the NFL right now. Good running attack. And I mean, the defense has been as impressive as any in the league. If you're looking at predictions, we'll give ours in a little bit. But I like the storylines. I like the journeyman, like a Stephon Diggs playing for a Super Bowl right now. And, obviously the storylines of Cardi B and all
Mhm.
that is fun to monitor as well. And then Sam Darnold, to me, just being the journeyman that he is and having some success and just getting passed on by teams and sort of ending up just by fate with the Seahawks and getting the chance taken on him is a
Mhm.
very cool storyline. I feel like, again, I'm leaning towards the Seahawks at this stage. I just feel like and they're heavily favored right now at 4.5 points. Everybody always says we want a good game. I certainly do too. You think about the last time the Seahawks were in a Super Bowl, I believe that was that year where they just trounced Denver, which was,
Was-
or was that was maybe one of their Super Bowl performances like 10,
Yeah.
10-ish years ago, which was like a 40-8 beatdown. I don't want
Mhm.
to see that. I think that there's potential to have a good showing here from either team. They're very well balanced, like either team as far as defense and offense is concerned. Who do you like right now, Ross? And what are some storylines you're looking forward to seeing?
Yeah, I think you hit it on the head with the
God, man,
storylines, especially on Seattle. I mean, what Will McDonald's been able to do with that team in such a short period of time. Obviously, a lot of credit goes to Clint Kubiak as well, his offensive coordinator, who's now going to be going on to be the Las Vegas Raiders head coach after he's done with this game. So we'll see what Clint calls in his final game with Seattle before he talks to Tom Brady and eventually Francisco Mendoza, which should be the first overall pick. But I think Seattle has a lot of guys on their team that are, I'm not going to call them rejects, but they're certainly reclamation projects, right? I mean, at the top there is Sam Darnold. And it's like, how do you feel today if you're a Jets fan? How do you feel today if you're a Vikings fan? And this guy was literally on your team and had them in the playoffs last year, and you opted to go with 9, right? You opted to go with JJ McCarthy. But there's a Cooper Cup angle here that we haven't talked about, and Cooper Cup is basically left for dead by the Rams, and they told him, "Hey man, you're washed. We don't want you anymore." And he went out there and he scored the touchdown on them a couple of weeks ago to help them get to the Super Bowl game. I think a lot of people forget DeMarcus Lawrence is on this football team, pass rusher, right? He was a Cowboys pass rusher for a long time. Speaking of the Jets again, right? Like Leonard Williams is out there, who's an outstanding tackle in this league for a long time. So they've done things right. And they've also built their team right through the draft too. Jackson Smith and Jigma is a superstar. Byron Murphy was an awesome pick. And Devon Witherspoon, cornerback from Illinois,
Praise
awesome
Abel.
pick. Gray Zabel, I was just about to say as well. Yes, left guard, awesome pick. sneaky, awesome trade to go out there and get Rashid Shaheed, who's been a lightning bolt for them. So they have done an amazing job building their roster. It's why their GM, Schneider got, executive of the year. They have done an outstanding job. I think from a roster standpoint, they're head and shoulders better than the Patriots right now. And I think when you look at the top two positions, the quarterback positions, Darnold is just playing better football right now than Drake May, and so that's where you see they're 4.5 point favorites coming into this game. I actually think it could be a little bit higher, but also the Patriots had a very good regular season, so it's a little bit closer. I'm rolling with the Seahawks as well. I kind of want to see Sam Darnold do this. I think this is a test of A, how you build a roster around a quarterback, and then B, some of these guys, it's not always their fault, right? Like it reminds me of Good Will Hunting when Robin Williams is talking to Matt Damon's character. He's like, it's not your fault. It's not your fault. Like Sam Darnold, it wasn't your fault. You just got drafted by the Jets, which sucks. Like you know what I'm saying? Like, it wasn't his fault. Like you just landed on the Jets. If he went anywhere else, you start to wonder what his career would be like. But hindsight is always 2020. And he's now 4 quarters away from holding up the ultimate prize and saying, I'm a Super Bowl champion. And oh, by the way, we ain't going anywhere next year because we still got a good roster ahead of us, too. And so I think it's his time. I think Drake May will ultimately have his time. The same thing with Caleb Williams and a couple other quarterbacks from that draft class, too.
Yeah, he had a great season when looking at Sam Darnold. And like you said, to go from being on the Jets and then the Minnesota days and just everywhere in between, just a tough pill to swallow if you're Sam Darnold. And then to go out there and fight, and especially, against the Rams, come out and put on a show with the 12th man behind him and throw for almost 350 yards, 3 touchdowns. He certainly has that, veteran presence that Drake May doesn't have. I think the lights are going to be a little too bright for him. And I don't think that the Patriots are quite ready for it. I think the NFC has been the class of the NFL, this league, just a better conference when you look at the Rams and the Seahawks and the Bears and company. Credit obviously to Denver and the Patriots and the Bills and those teams, but it seems like it's shifting now to the NFC. Like you said, just a really exceptional job as far as the roster and how it's been handled from coaching on down. And then Rashid Shaheed, like you said, is like, he's almost a lock to maybe get a touchdown in the game and maybe take one back, which would be a good prop to look into. And then, the defense certainly winning championships. It's a very opportunistic defense, and they have the horses, like you talked about, Leonard Williams and the rest of this defense, Devon Witherspoon and company, just really loaded to make Drake May's night a nightmare. So I'm really leaning heavily towards the Seahawks. The real question, Ross, is what is Bad Bunny going to open with? We saw him have a great night at the Grammys, which we'll talk about shortly, but he's going to be pulling out the stops. And then what features will he have? Is Cardi B going to come on stage? Is Gloria Estefan or someone like that?
Well, that's the big one, right? Is Cardi B. I mean, we know she's going to be at the football game. They've got to hit smash with each other. So you have to wonder, I'm like, she has to come out there and do a song with him, right? She might as well. She's in the building. In terms of what song he's going to open up with, I mean, the album that he just won album of the year with the Grammy has got bangers on there and hits. So I think DTMF is probably going to be the leader in the front house for him to come out there. I'm just wondering if he's going to kind of start it like with some of his melodic songs before he really kicks up the notch a little bit and goes into straight party mode. But again, for those people who are not familiar with Bad Bunny's music, and obviously most of his music is in Spanish, doesn't matter. You're going to vibe out. He's going to put on a party. He's going to put on a show. You're going to have a good time. Grab yourself a drink. We're Puerto Rican. Get yourself a Bacardi and Coke on Sunday. We're all Puerto Rican. On Sunday, we're definitely all Puerto Rican. I agree with that.
Coquitos all around.
Absolutely. And have some fun, man. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a lot of blast. I implore people, if you've never heard this guy's music, it just makes you, it puts a smile on your face. It puts you in a good mood. And I'm happy for him. I'm happy for his moment. He's a good dude. And he's a good-looking guy, and he's gonna put on a good show, man. It's just gonna be a lot of fun. So embrace the moment. He definitely is, And you're going to see why. This is one of the 5 biggest artists in the world. Not in the United States, not in Puerto Rico, in the world. And
Global.
we have to realize this sport is becoming more and more global. We saw this week the amount of international games they are doing next year. And they want to increase that number exponentially as they look forward to 18 regular season games. They want to put teams internationally all over the world. You got to start embracing the international culture when it comes to football, because there are a lot of fans outside the United States. It started as our sport as a country, but we also need to share this sport as well. Just like we have to share our hip hop with other groups and people, and it broke out into different genres. And a part of that is reggaeton, which was what Bad Bunny does. So enjoy it, man. It's going to be a lot of fun. I can't wait for him to go out there and shut it down.
Good for Happy Gilmore's caddy.
Yeah.
I love Bad Bunny, man. I think that it's like you said, music is so, not only international, but, interracial, just like every type of, it just appeals to everybody with different strokes for different folks. It's like,
Mhm.
the whole narrative going into this, it's like we've seen this sort of global presence before. We actually saw Bad Bunny, get up on stage with Shakira. It's several
Mhm.
years ago, which I
Mhm.
think everybody forgot about until this was happening. But a huge, huge star. And I think, thinking about this last album that he did that cleaned up at the Grammys, Debí tirar más fotos,
Mhm.
that it's perfect, like accompanied music for, the intermission of the Super Bowl, right? And the appeal that it has globally, and so cool what he's done for Puerto Rico, which by the way is part of the
Yes.
United States, that I feel like people need to get reminded of. And Trevor Noah made a good joke about it at the Grammys. But he's earned this moment like 100 times over. It's
Mhm.
so cool to see him do this, because he looks the same now as he did like 10 years ago when he started, before bagging groceries and all that, to being a superstar at this point. So
That's
very
right.
pumped for it. He might
Good.
open with a little Nueva Yol, and then he will,
Right.
go into, the like you said, he will be playing De Tirar Más Fotos. It just is a matter of when in the set list. But I'm curious too, you're coming off, was it Kendrick last year? It feels like yesterday, who also cleaned up in the Grammys. And such an incredible performance that was. You gotta really pull out some crazy stops. And SZA featured, and he was pretty light on features because it was Kendrick. What else did you need? But Bad Bunny could bring out some fun acts to support him during that halftime show.
He certainly can. He certainly can.
Yes,
We
sir.
talking? We want to go through some prop bets real quick on Super Bowl.
Give me some, absolutely.
Awesome, absolutely. I'll give you a couple safe ones here that we
Over
roll
under
through.
over under 10 wings for you, Ross, on
Oh,
Sunday.
definitely over on that. Over on that by like the end of the Star Spangled Banner, the national anthem. Listen, I think if you want to go safe in this game, I like Jackson Smith and Jigma, of course, to score anytime touchdown. I think that's pretty much a given right there. And if you think he's going to do that, I would also probably sprinkle a little bit on getting 2 touchdowns, because I think he's going to be featured early and often in that game. And if you like him for 2 touchdowns, why don't you go ahead and sprinkle a little bit on him getting Super Bowl MVP as well? Because if he goes for like 8 for 160 and 2 touchdowns, there's a very good chance that he's going to be your Super Bowl MVP. And I think right now you can get him at like plus 550 or something like that. We know Drake May's got a banged up shoulder coming into this game, and he has not had a good playoffs. I like him to throw an interception a lot in this game. I think he's going to be like plus 115, 120 right now. So you can get Drake May to throw an interception in this game. You can get plus odds for that. I would certainly take that. I kind of like the over on Kenneth Walker Jr.'s longest rush. I think the Patriots defense can get gashed every now and then in the run. I think it's only like 16.5. So if he gets a 17-yard rush, you cash that in. And I'm gonna give you two long shots that I always love. I'll actually give you 3 long shots. I'll give you a bonus one. The first one I have is AJ Barner, who is their tight end. Anytime touchdown, you can get AJ Barner. You can get some pretty good odds on that. He is normally their tush push guy. He's normally like their short yardage guy. So if that ball is anywhere around the 1 yard line, something like that, I can see him coming in there, sneaking in, and rushing forward for an anytime TD. And so I think, or he could just come out and catch a pass. I think either way, rushing or passing, I'd sprinkle a little bit on AJ Barner to get an anytime touchdown. Last two I'll give you. Every year I do this bet. It is cashed, I think, 2 out of the 4 or 5 years. It's any non QB to throw a touchdown. I love that bet. It's always, they always save these plays because it's the last game of the season. We saw Cooper Kupp did it. I think we saw, it might have been, it wasn't Xavier Worthy. It was somebody on the Chiefs that did it as well. It might have been McCole Hardman. This bet tends to cash a little bit. So it's worth a couple dollars as a sprinkle on that. Because if you cash it, you can get some amazing odds on it. And then speaking of amazing odds, you start talking about any lineman to score a touchdown. At first, I was thinking about Kyrus Tonga, who the Patriots bring in a lot as a short yardage fullback. He's their defensive tackle. You can get him at like plus 7,500, which is like massive odds. But if you want to play it safe, you can go any lineman to score a touchdown on either team, and you can probably get that at like plus 2,500. Again, you might see a sneak or a handoff to one of these big guys around the goal line for a touchdown. It's worth a sprinkle. This is the kind of game, the Super Bowl, where these trick plays, these guys, these coaches, they keep a lot in the tuck until the very last game, and they just kind of empty the clip a little bit and see what happens. Those are some fun props I got for everybody.
I like those a lot, Ross, and we'll get to the Grammys in a moment here. But I also want to talk to you right now, Ross. Did you ever wonder just how much of your personal information is floating around online? Every click, every scroll. We talk about our conspiracy theories, Ross, and the deep dive into conspiracy videos, whether it be Bigfoot or the Loch Ness monster. All of it can be logged, tracked, and sold. But with Surfshark, all that data stays yours. When I'm connected, Surfshark encrypts everything I do online. So even my internet provider or nosy advertisers can't see what I'm up to. It's like finally being able to shut the blinds on your digital life. Total privacy, total control. Honestly, it's a relief knowing I can browse freely without constantly worrying who's watching. A big proponent of this. Surfshark has servers in over 100 countries, meaning that I can now access content from almost, any country in the world because sometimes I need access to foreign content. There's nothing that stops me in my tracks more than getting this content isn't available in this region message, especially when all you want to do is relax, watch the Bears or the Bulls now in the hockey season coming up with the Blackhawks. Surfshark fixes that instantly. I just open the app, switch my location to USA, and I have access to all content as if I were really there. No more missing out on the content I love just because whereof I happen to be. Again, this is a big one for me. Surfshark doesn't keep logs like at all. That means even if someone wanted to see what I've been up to online, there's literally nothing to show them. Most people don't realize this, but some VPNs do keep records of your activity, which kind of defeats the point of the privacy, right? Surfshark's strict no logs policy means they don't monitor, track, or store any of your browsing data. It's like wiping your digital footprints clean the second you take a step. I find that so reassuring knowing that what I do online stays my business and no one else's. 24/7 support from Surfshark as well. Tech issues always seem to happen at the worst possible time, right before the Super Bowl, for example, or, you're booking flights to, where you going, Ross? Turkey with your kids, or what does he want to learn? Portuguese. That's
Portuguese.
Portugal. There it is. But Surfshark support team is there 24/7, and they actually respond like humans, not robots. So I reached out to them the other day when I need a little reassurance on the issues with my browsing, and then they were super fast and helpful. Live chat, real people, no endless waiting. It's nice knowing there's always someone on the other end who can sort out these, things if I ever get stuck, whether it's setting up a new device, troubleshooting a connection, or just asking questions. Surfshark's got your back anytime. So there's a risk-free 30-day money-back guarantee. The offer available we have for listeners, go to the link that I'll provide shortly or use the code at checkout. I'll put it up on the screen here. You get 4 extra months of Surfshark VPN. And I will get the URL up here and code shortly, as I said. But Surfshark is the way to go if you're considering a VPN. Did you watch the Grammys, Ross?
I watched the Grammys. I enjoyed the Grammys. The one thing I don't enjoy about the Grammys is for an award show, we got to do better than just showing 9 awards on the.
It was very short on awards. That's right.
Very short on the awards. I actually do want to see some of the awards, like Kalani won, and Leon Thomas won, and some of the hip hop stuff, some of the R&B stuff as well. Some of the below the line categories, but I get it. People are tuning in for the performances, and the performances they delivered. I think at the top for me, obviously Lauryn Hill showing up and being able to do a tribute for D'Angelo and Roberta Flack, who we both lost this year to R&B soul giants. I think that was amazing for me. Of course, you and I are huge Clips fans. I thought they should have won Rap Album of the Year. That went to Kendrick Lamar and I forget, GNX. But that was still an amazing performance. And I got a soft spot in my heart for Olivia Dean as well, and that is one of my favorite albums of the year. I talked about it at the year end. We talked about one of our favorite albums. So she had a great performance, and credit for her for winning New Artist of the Year as well. And when are you? I'm just asking, when are you going to show up in just your gym shorts like Justin Bieber and start singing songs?
That was odd with, singing basically to his wife and doing his delay. It was a trip. I love that, it's an end of an era with CBS, their last year doing it for 54
right.
years, whatever it is. And Trevor Noah, this is his 6th year, unbelievable. And he felt like the, perpetual host
Mhm.
of the Grammys for sure. But Kendrick over Clips for Rap Album of the Year was sort of tough to stomach. It was, a loaded category too. You think about that, in between GNX and Clips's album, that it would go to Clips just based on seniority or something like that. But it is what it is. They had a phenomenal performance later on with Pharrell, as Pharrell got honored with the Dr. Dre, Achievement in Music Award,
Mhm.
as they did so far ahead behind, which was just awesome. And so cool to see it sort of, as the cap live performance. And hip hop had a good presence too with Tyler the Creator, who's had a great year, who's obviously nominated for Chromacopia and had another
Mhm.
album come out. He did Marty Supreme. He's just been super busy with, his fashion line and everything like that. He's just a
Mhm.
character, and he was going nuts during that Clips performance, which was cool to see. Learning about Leon Thomas after that, like putting me on to
Yeah.
Leon Thomas was awesome. And
Yep.
then I'm glad he could save that best new artist segment, because you could miss me with all those other artists. I'm basically recycled at this point, and Biebs being out there in nothing but his basketball shorts. That's just his dad era. I feel like he's just doing his thing in a buzz cut, just like you could picture him doing the same thing in his garage with a baby and a baby Bjorn, Haley Bieber going out shopping.
Mhm.
But Pharrell, rightfully so, getting honored. That was pretty cool, and Q-Tip honoring him.
Yeah.
You and I are big Tribe called Quest fans, but he's a director at Louis Vuitton, just everything. And as Trevor Noah said, like him saying, "I'm 52, keep working." And we're like, "You're 52? You look the
Yeah.
same as when you
Yeah.
came out at like
Look-
22,
Looks like an
working
alien.
with Clips and
Yeah.
with NERD." I mean,
Yeah.
incredible genes. The tributes, obviously, to those we lost were incredible. It was a big year of losses for music, just in, across
Mhm.
genres too, with like Bob Weir recently and Ozzy and D'Angelo. Just really some giants. And with the Ozzy tribute was so cool, with Post Malone and Chad Smith
Mhm.
and Slash and company doing War Pigs, and you could see the emotion in the Osbournes' face, who were like up front there, Jack and Kelly
Yeah.
and Sharon. Um, was an awesome tribute. And then right to the, like, everybody in R&B worth noting,
Yeah.
doing the D'Angelo and Roberta Flack tribute,
Mhm.
with led by Lauryn Hill.
Yep.
Wycliffe came out. I mean, John Baptiste, Leon Thomas, Raphael Sadiq,
Yep.
Bilal, also good, and John Legend and Shaka Khan. Like, it had me, standing up and enjoying it. I know it had you at the same point, Ross, as well. And
Mhm.
Coach Kenny with the big win with the chair saying Luther Vandross won, and realizing that Kendrick had won, and like apologizing to Soundwave on stage was hilarious. As Trevor Noah said, live television, that's how it goes. But
So
well earned. And I think, like, we try not to get political, but the message of SZA, given the climate, and obviously Bad Bunny had his things to say about ICE, and about the point of view of migrants right now and immigrants. And with the negativity and the doom scrolling and just the anxiety that our nation has, as it was smart to say, and just right to say, like, we gotta, bring each other up and focus on the positivity. And the chairman of the Grammy said the same thing too, just the powerful emotion and the message of music. Sometimes when we can't express ourselves, the best way we can express ourselves is in music, and get us out of funks and get us in the right moods. And I love that message. The whole thing that all those artists did really, influenced that. So It was a cool event and, ended, appropriately with Bad Bunny getting album of the year. He's having a hell of a week, man. Who couldn't perform because he was contractually obligated with the Super Bowl,
Yeah,
but man, he is winning big time and then, accepted his award in mostly Spanish. And then Trevor Noah is like, bye, I'll see you when I see you. Like, what
yeah.
are we gonna see Trevor Noah do next? I wonder.
I know, I know. Well, I'm sure somebody will throw him a bag, a Netflix show or something like that, and get him a bag because he's very talented. He's a great host. He's a great comedian. Yeah, I echo everything you said. I mean, listen, it's music brings all of us together, just like sports does, and so I want everybody to enjoy the music that ranges from all over the world, and everybody all over the world is going to sit back, relax, and enjoy the Super Bowl this weekend. We get the start of the Winter Olympics this weekend as well. So
Oh,
that's going to hold us over for a couple weeks. And, the groundhog said yesterday, we only got 6 more weeks of this. I don't know why people get negative when he says six
Chuck
more
Willie.
weeks. I'll take 6 more weeks of winter in Chicago right now. That puts us like end of March. That's a win for us. And so when I got out of bed this morning and walked the dog at 6 something in the morning, there was a little glimmer of sunlight. I was like, we're almost there. We're getting there. We're getting closer. We got the combine coming up pretty soon. We're going to start talking about free agency, and then we'll start talking about schedule release and draft and things like that. And before you know it, football season will be back again. But I'm not rushing it. I want to enjoy the moments, obviously, and everybody needs to enjoy each other and be safe out there, please.
Yeah, no question. Once again, go to surfshark.com/gridiron for that promo that we're running right now. You get to, at checkout, you can get 4 extra months of the Surfshark VPN at surfshark.com/gridiron. If you are interested in that. And Ross, before we
So,
go, favorite
yep.
Catherine O'Hara movie as we lost the giant of comedy this last week. Is
It's
it
always
Best in Show? Is
It's
it
always it's always
Home
Beetlejuice for
Alone?
me. It's Beetlejuice for me. Beetlejuice is the original Beetlejuice. Absolutely amazing. That Deo sing at the near the end there with Winona Ryder's kind of leading the charge a little bit, and Catherine O'Hara singing along with everybody else is absolutely outstanding stuff. I grew up as a Tim Burton disciple as a kid, and so I feel like Tim Burton and Catherine O'Hara and the rest of that cast match made in heaven. R.I.P. to her. What a amazingly funny, talented woman. I feel like unfortunately we don't get that kind of talent anymore, especially in the comedy scene. It's all streamers and TikTok and YouTube and things like that. So for what she's able to do, like you said, from Home Alone to Best in Show to Beetlejuice to Schitt's Creek, going in her later careers as we lost a special person.
And just very busy these last few years with
It
the
was.
studio and The
It
Last
always
of Us,
worked.
like just
Yep.
one of the hardest workers in television and film too, for sure. And not only those blockbusters and films, but obviously I love like A Mighty Wind and Best in Show and Waiting for Guffman. I feel like I still picture her
Mhm.
and Fred Willard doing some goofy sketches somewhere in the great beyond, in the great gig in the sky. But Super Bowl predictions, Ross, as we get out of here. I think we both have the Seahawks winning, right?
I got Seahawks winning
4 for me.
31, New England 20.
31, New England 20. I want some points in this Super Bowl. I'll go a little bit higher, 34, and then New England 24. But I got the Seahawks winning, and good for Sam Darnold and company. I am hoping for a good game. Thanks for hanging out on a Tuesday with us. Follow at Second City Gridiron for all your Bears news and football news. Subscribe to the YouTube channel if you don't already. The audio-only version's on Spotify, iTunes. Do the same. Hit the like button. Tell your friends. I'm at The Real Evan Mack. Ross is at Ross Reed. Everybody be good to each other. Of course, enjoy the Super Bowl. For now, we say goodbye. So long, everybody.